if anybody was going to create something, that would be taken seriously and already have, people interested in watching or whatnot, and to get eyes on the girls in the women scene. Because, you can say you support women gamers all you want, but it's about the actions, it's about creating the spaces, it's about, holding people accountable. And that just wasn't really happening.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 133 of the COD Casuals podcast. We're your host, Mike.
I'm Justin.
Justin, how we doing today, bro?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? What'd you do today, man?
I didn't do that much. Woke up, played some COD. Honestly, I didn't do that much.
Nah.
But obviously, we're in a different setup here.
Yeah. We're back on StreamYard once again. But
Yep.
We have a third person here. We have a very, very special guest that, honestly, I'm not going to lie, we were very surprised that this person reached back to us. So I just want to start off initially with a huge thank you for coming on the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Justin, why don't you give them a proper introduction here?
Yeah. So we've got a very special guest today, as Mike said. She's only 23 years old and is already successfully making positive changes in the gaming community. She's a partner Twitch streamer. She's a music artist and an analyst for the Call of Duty League and the founder of the WXC. We have the queen herself, Allyckt, or Allie Parker. Claps.
Hello. That was such
Applause.
an intro. Wow. Hi.
Dude, Justin, you crushed it, man.
I got to do my research.
Yeah, big time.
How are you doing, Allie?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Very good. Very
Always
good.
good.
Yeah, we always try to as best as we can. So I thought we would just kind of start off. I mean, again, Justin gave off a pretty good intro. We touched on a lot of things. Again, since we're predominantly in the gaming scene, I just wanted to honestly start off, like, what's your earliest gaming memory? Like, how did this eventually become to what it is right now, where we're doing this right now, and you just got off of a stream too? So you were just live streaming for how many hours?
I think I hit like 5 or 6 just now.
Yeah.
That's a good sesh. Good sesh.
It's a decent sesh.
Yeah. And we talked before, you said you're playing what game right now?
I was playing League of Legends because it's the off season.
Yeah.
It's the off season. It's why I'm playing League of Legends. But my earliest memory as gaming wise was with my dad. Actually, my dad's a big gamer, and I was with Call of Duty. He was I feel like when you were growing up, you're kind of either like a Call of Duty or a Halo kid, and my dad was a Call of Duty kid. And I was sitting in his. Sorry, the gnat just hit me in the face. I was sitting in his lap, and he was playing Modern Warfare 2's campaign, the original Modern Warfare 2. And it was the scene when you're in the airport in terminal, and I don't know if I should go into gruesome detail, but you do something that lived in the memory of most of Call of Duty players for the rest of our lives. At the ripe age of 9, I watched my dad do that, and from then on, I clearly was just in love with the game. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, no, that's fine though. I mean,
yeah, that's fine. we remember that
permanently.
too.
Yeah, no, of course we do. Yeah, so I'd say to both of us, we're all three of us on the same age. We're both 25.
Okay.
So Justin, that was your first COD too. Was MW2.
Yep.
And mine was a little bit earlier, but I do remember that moment for sure. I mean, I think that scarred every 8, 9, 10-year-old in the world. But so did he ever play did he play the multiplayer at all, or is he mainly just campaigns that he played?
I don't vividly remember playing multiplayer. Nowadays my dad still plays video games, so he plays multiplayer now, and he even plays like rank play and stuff now because of me. But back then that's really all I can remember before like I branched off and started playing on my own. And I was a big hardcore max sense category player on Black Ops 2, so time to kill, I never noticed how fast it got in the years until I started having to play casual.
Nice. So speaking of like Call of Duty and stuff, obviously you're an analyst for the CDL. Can you give like some background of yourself, like how you became Allyckt and like how you got to the CDL?
Yeah, how did we go from 9-year-old being traumatized to where we are right now?
Yeah.
It's quite a gap there, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's like not even like It's not even like the easiest of steps either. Like the storyline is so weird because I didn't know esports existed. Like I didn't know it was, obviously even back then it was like a big growing scene, but all the way up until my senior year of high school, I knew nothing about esports or anything. I'd always played Call of Duty casually. Like that was my video game. I had my little PS4. I had a beanbag on my floor and a giant TV, which, you know, I think of back then and I'm like, how in the world was I even getting kills like that?
We all think that.
And I actually, my junior year of high school, end of junior year, beginning of senior year, I made this guy be my friend in my history class just because, you know, like he was just really quiet and I was way outgoing back then and he could solve a Rubik's Cube really fast. And I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really cool. So like I made him be my friend because he wanted nothing to do with me. I was very annoying, but he did end up giving in and becoming my friend. And he was into the Destiny community at the time, and so that's where he like kind of introduced me, I guess, a little bit to like the gaming world and the gaming community. Like I made a Twitter, and they kind of brought me into their little friend group. They made sniping montages of Destiny clips and stuff, and sometimes Call of Duty. And then they were like, "You're a girl, you should stream and do all this stuff." And I was like, sure, whatever. And then I started my first couple of streams during my senior year. And then I learned about competitive Call of Duty. And I was like, that's really cool. I've played Call of Duty my whole life. And so as my like senior graduation trip, I flew to Anaheim in 2018 as my first event, and watched the World War II was the game at the time. And I just, everybody was like, let's walk around California and go to Disneyland. Like they didn't really care that much for the event. It was just more like people were meeting up online like during those times. And I was glued to the screen. I loved it. I couldn't walk away. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know any teams. I didn't know any players. I just knew the game itself. And I could not walk away from like that competitive feeling of what was going on. And from then on, I went home and I was like, I need to start playing competitive. So I started playing competitive. And then I went to compete at Black Ops 4 in Texas, Fort Worth in the open bracket back when it was the open bracket. And I don't know, I guess they were just like, girl that's good at video game, let's bring her on the open bracket stream for an interview. So they brought me up for an interview and they asked me questions about COD and I talked about it. I riffed about it. I said what I knew. And I was like, oh, that was cool. Okay. And I started leaving. And my parents were there. And they were like, if you want to come back up and hang out with us on the stream, you can. And I was like, I was thinking they were being nice. I was like, oh, they're just, you know, oh, if you want to come hang out again. My parents were like, no, like you get your butt up on that stage and you go be on that broadcast. And I was like, ugh, I was 18 or 19. I was like, I don't want to go eat. I want to go sleep. We just lost. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. But I went back up, whatever, and I thought nothing of it. Nothing came of it after that. A couple months went by, and then the Anaheim of 2019 came around. And 4 days before Anaheim of 2019, I got a DM in my Twitter, my Twitter DMs, and it was the producer of the open bracket asking if I wanted to come cast. I'd never done it. I'd never shown interest. I never knew it was a career path. I had no idea. But obviously, it was one of those things where, like, I can't say no. Like, I can't decline this. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what do I have to do? And 2 days later, they had me flown out. I mean, I was from Virginia at the time. So I went from East Coast all the way to West Coast within a matter of 2 days. I showed up for rehearsal day and I casted the open bracket. I didn't know what I was doing. I was on the desk. I was casting. I was interviewing. And then every event after that, they kept asking me to come back and keep doing it, to the point where I casted on the Delta stream during World Champs that year as well. And I think that was probably like my biggest step up. And then I went into casting challengers. And then this past 2 years, I got moved up to the desk.
That's a crazy story.
That's insane.
Story. I felt like I was riffing for so long, and I was like, I have to hurry this up.
No.
Seriously, if you riff for like another 20 minutes, I would just sit here being like, what?
Yeah, because so obviously we tried to do our research on our guests, and your trajectory and your path, like it's been so short, and you started, like you said, back in 2018, and it's only been a couple of years, so you've risen up like pretty quick, and that's insanely
fast.
Fast, and it's awesome too, because you're first off, you're really good on the desk. You're very articulate, well spoken. Bless you.
Thank you.
And I just want to know, like, how was that first casting experience? Like, just going up, because it seems like you've always been this articulate.
I have not. So growing up, I actually didn't like have that many friends, and I didn't like talk to that many people. I was like an outgoing person until I kept getting like shut down almost by my peers, and so like slowly, and I was also undiagnosed at the time, so like I was just slowly like, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm just gonna stop opening my mouth. So then I started playing a lot of video games, and I didn't really have to talk or do anything, and so I lost a lot of social skills as like I got into high school. And then when I got into streaming, I definitely felt like comfortable because it was more like I was talking to a camera rather than talking to people. But I've always been told that I talk fast. And that's something that just has to do with the fact that like I'm so scared of taking too long, or, I'm riffing about something. So like I'm always conscious of it. And so when I went to cast at first, it was almost like the one thing I could lean heavily in on, because since I had no idea what I was doing and all that I did know was the game, but since I could talk so fast, even if like I didn't squish the information down enough like you should when casting, I was able to get it out in time, so like to keep up with the pace of the game. But that first time casting, was terrifying. It was utterly terrifying, especially because I didn't know better back then, and I was looking at chat and I was trying to take feedback and da 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 da. I wasn't that confident in my appearance at the time. I didn't know how to do like a casting voice. I didn't know how to talk. I barely knew competitive language just because I'd only been playing competitive for less than a year. I literally, Fort Worth was what, like 3 or 4 months into like the competitive season. Like I felt so underprepared compared to everybody else, because my peers at that time were like Bryson Tunn, who have been doing this forever, Spaceman, I Hold Shift, like seasoned people who have been in the scene and been doing this. So like it was a really big shadow to be like, I don't know what they saw in me for me to be able to go up here and stand at the same level as these people.
Now, when you went into that, and then you mentioned a whole bunch of names there that were already seasoned and been doing it for a long time, did they come to your aid and help you and give you tips and being like, here's the really good things that you do. Here's just what you got to work on. Because you've shown it on like stories, and I think you've talked about it on the desk before about how you take very extensive notes to prepare for this stuff. Did you ever take notes when you were first learning on like how to improve on casting?
Yeah, so what's funny about that is, so like my first event, I don't remember if I had a notebook or anything. I don't think that I did. I think I just took like note cards or something from somebody, because again, I had no idea what I was doing. I was given like 2 days to be like, time to become a caster. Let me just figure out this career path real quick. But like Shift and Spaceman, I definitely leaned on them really, really heavy. Shift offered to like help me outside of like rehearsal hours and stuff. I didn't take him up on it. I should have at the time. I was just so like out of my element. I didn't know these people. Like I was just trying to put my head down and figure out what I needed to figure out. And Bryson 10, they also helped me, but they're more like, you got this. Like, like once you get into it, like you'll figure it out. And then if I had questions, of course, they were always right there to answer. I feel like at that time, they also didn't realize like how new I was. Because I think it was so chaotic, because I feel like the reason I was asked to go cast, I think, is because like there was some visa issues or something. Obviously, it was super last minute, so there was like some back end stuff that I feel like realizing like my level experience was really low on the priority list. So I think that's why they were all just like, you got it. Like, go ahead. Like, you're doing great, sweetie. Like, good job. And in my head, I'm like, this is the only time I'm ever going to do this. Like, I'm terrible. Like, I'm never going to be brought back again. So like, I'm not even like, I'm trying to improve, but I'm also not trying to improve, if that makes sense. Cause I was like, I'm just here one time. I was an emergency backup, like I was bottom of the list. Like, remember that girl that one time that did okay? We're running out of options here. Let's just bring her on for funsies.
Right.
But they were helpful.
That would definitely ease your nerves too.
Yeah, just being like, hey, you know what, this is a one and go. Like, I might as well just go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How'd your parents feel when you got that DM? Like, were they like, you have to do this? just like
Oh
theirs that
yeah.
need to go on the desk?
It was more like, we told you so. Like, we told you, like, you had to go back up there, and they weren't just being nice, and they were all like, I heard in the microphone they say something about you being good or whatever. Like, we told you so, da, 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 and sent me on my way.
That's awesome. See, like Mike and I love this stuff where see, if you don't take that opportunity, then you would, like, you don't know if you'd be here right now, like where you are
I
in that position.
have
It's
no
crazy.
idea where I would be in life. No
Mhm.
idea.
Now, did you always want to, like, when you were younger, did you think that gaming was always going to be part of your life one way or another?
I mean, casually, yeah. What's funny about, I guess, like, my incline of gaming or whatever, is I kind of had dribbled off of gaming a little bit by the time I got into high school. Like, I was still playing casually, but not nearly as much as I used to, because for my first 2 years of high school, we lived kind of in the middle of nowhere, and like more of the countryside where the internet wasn't very good, and I didn't have my own PlayStation at the time, and all we had was my dad's PlayStation. So, like, every once in a while, I would go downstairs. It couldn't even handle Call of Duty, or internet couldn't even handle Call of Duty, but I could open up like Destiny and play like a PvE or something. So every once in a while, I'd go downstairs and play Destiny. But like, other than that, like, I really didn't get the game that much, at least not nearly as much as when I was in middle school. So the fact that, like, in high school, I kind of got my PlayStation back, and I would play like zombies. Like, that was my free time, zombies and hardcore, like, whatever. And then getting into streaming, and then kind of like shooting myself back into like this obsession with gaming was almost like it felt like revitalizing. Like, I was in middle school again, and I was enjoying all these games.
Yeah, no, I try to think about that a lot too, because the guests that we've had on, it's always a mixed bag of people who say like, "Oh, I definitely wanted to make my career in gaming, like one way or
Um,
another. I was going to do something." And there's a lot of people like yourself that just say like, "Honestly, I fell into it,
yeah.
and I kept rolling with it, and somehow I ended up where I am here, and people pay me for this."
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, no, which is really cool though. I mean, and a thing that you had touched on before that I really like is the fact that both your parents are really supportive of it. Which I was going to ask about that, like, because there's definitely a stigma, of course, with first off women playing games and then just playing games in general
Yeah.
nowadays. I would say now it's probably lessened quite a bit. Um, but I know, like, Justin, you could speak on this a lot more because you felt it at home. Like, there was a real pushback against,
Mhm.
like, from you wanting to even just play games. Like, you didn't even want to make a career of it, but you just wanted to play games on the weekends.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, that part of it too is just like a culture thing. Like, having Asian parents, video games, they don't really look highly on video games.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand a lot of it's just because they want you to do well in school, graduate, get that job. But yeah, I got a lot of pushback. I mean, I just remember being on PS3, like, it's 9 o'clock. I got to go to bed. It's a school night. And I'm talking to Mike and I'm like, okay, I got to whisper now because my parents are asleep. And I hear footsteps coming up the stairs, turn out the mic, turn out the PlayStation, jump in bed. I'm
Yeah.
asleep. Yeah. Um, but I do agree. I think that stigma of video games is getting better. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, my parents, they definitely did not like video games. Now they're okay with it because I have a job and everything. But how are your
That'll
parents?
definitely help.
Yeah, just a little bit. My parents were, well, so my dad obviously was always a gamer. I think it also helped that I had an older brother too, so he also played video games, so it kind of just like fell onto me. So like, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to copy what my big brother and my dad are doing." And my mom worked days a lot of the time, and my dad worked nights, so he would sleep all day. And so like, and my mom would be gone at work, so just be me and my brother kind of fending for ourselves sometimes. It's like, "Well, what do we do?" And it's like, "Well, we can't go outside, so we're just gonna play video games or something." But my mom wasn't always into it. She was kind of, I wouldn't say stickler parent, but was more so on like, the bedtimes, shutting stuff off, and like, I'm sure it was worse on my brother than it was on me, more than anything, because I was the younger one, and by the time I was like in high school, I was kind of already doing a little bit of the gaming thing. And I also had a part-time job. So like, I couldn't really get in trouble with that sort of thing. I was a little bit more like the more independent child, where I didn't have to have like somebody kind of watching over me and making sure I was like taking care of myself and my grades or whatever, going to work and whatnot. But she wasn't a gamer at all. Like, she didn't play any video games. She wasn't into it. I'm sure my dad tried for years, until I started streaming. And one day, so the first like real game I was streaming for a while was Fortnite, and and I was like, Mom, for a stream idea, you know, I'm averaging like 8 viewers at this point. So I'm like, Mom, for a stream idea, will you come on my stream and let me teach you how to play Fortnite? And she was like, sure, yeah, whatever. So I got her on my setup and I taught her how to play Fortnite. And my dad took that as an opportunity because I guess she was like, oh, maybe that was fun or whatever. And my dad took that as an opportunity. I swear, like, not even a week went by. I blinked. And my brother's old room, he had moved out, was turned into like a mini game room for them. It had my dad's PlayStation on the TV. And then there was another corner with he went and bought her a PlayStation.
That's awesome.
Another corner with like lawn chairs. And I'd walk in and they were both playing together. And I was like, you have to thank me for this.
Right.
But now, like, years later, they have a huge game room at their house. They have like all these, they have LEDs and knickknacks galore. Their subs room's better than mine. And my mom has her own PC. She has a PS5. So does my dad. Like, dual monitors. Like, they got the whole setup. They got everything you could ever want. And so now I walk in home and I'm like, haha, Dad, you're welcome.
Yeah, he should be kissing the ground you walk on. Yeah, right. Going from never playing games to doing that. Wow.
Not at all. That's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I could never. My dad's played a game one time because my dad had like a racing background, and I remember I gave him, it was Gran Turismo, and I was like, oh yeah, go try it. And he like drove, just crashed in. He was like, oh, this sucks, and he never played it again. And my mom would watch us. She would watch us play games. Like we used to play. So I have one older brother who's he's 3 years older than me. And we used to play this game on the PlayStation 2, Jack and Daxter. And do you know the game at all?
Mm-mm.
Oh, sad. It was a really good game, right? But she would be like, "Oh, I like the colors in that game. It's so pretty." Like, that's all she would ever say. You know, I'd be like, "Do you want to go play it?" She'd be like, "No."
Aww.
Yeah, but now she's got a full setup like that. Come on. I mean, I couldn't imagine my mom even had a PC.
Oh, me neither. My mom can barely use her phone.
Like, to be fair, I do have younger parents. They're mid-late 40s right now. My brother's 4 years older than me. My mom had him when she was 19. So considering that, like, they're a bit on the younger side.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking too with your dad being into gaming, that might be part of the reason too. You know, because I'm on the total opposite. My dad is old. He's 70. I mean, he's an old man. Yeah, so he's like,
I don't want to agree that your dad is old, but
oh no, he says it all the time. But like, think that he was born a time when like there were no games. To him, it was just like
he has no
time for that. Yeah, yeah, bro. You know,
my parents. I remember one time I got my dad to play Madden with me, and he threw an interception, and he was like, "This sucks. I'm just gonna go watch football. Why would I play this?"
No way. All right.
Now, so you had mentioned that you were playing COD, or like the first memory you had with him was MW2. Were you playing games outside of COD, like any other single player games, or was it really just like you were born and bred in Call of Duty?
I was born and bred in Call of Duty. I mean, there was like the Spyro every once in a while, and like as a child, the Nintendo 64. But like the second I could hold a controller myself, all in the world I would play was COD. I mean, day and night. I mean, my dad got me into Destiny a little bit because my dad's brothers are also gamers. So him and his two brothers would go and do Destiny raids, and I would be like, let me come do Destiny raids.
I know.
Let me come do Destiny raids with you. So like sometimes I would get on Destiny just to play with them, but like my heart was always on Call of Duty. I always wanted to play it all hours of the day.
So you go and you play MW2 with them, and then do you go out and start playing by yourself like right away? Or is it kind of later on when you, after you said you go to, where was it? Was it Anaheim that you had mentioned? And then you got more into competitive. Like, were you still just playing multiplayer, like for every Call of Duty?
Yeah, I was still playing multiplayer. I lived in either the hardcore game mode. I was a max sense. I'd be 12 max sense, and I'd play hardcore. People complain in competitive, the TTK now. go play 14-year-old me in a hardcore lobby and cry about it later. But that were zombies. I was a big zombies fan.
Do you ever go back now? I'll let you go in a second, Justin.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back now and question yourself how you played on Max Sense? Like, you ever think that? Because we played MW3, and I like think back then I was playing on like 1010 Sense.
Yeah.
And I couldn't ever do that now.
No.
Like, yeah, I don't know how the hell we ended up playing like that and thought we thought we were decent. But now I always question, I'm like, were we good, bro? Like,
I don't know.
Actually good
I think we were just young, twisted kids. Like, now, if I 1v1 myself back then, I would destroy myself.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a competition.
The IQ gets higher as you get older, for sure. Like, the sense. But then, like, I saw it, I think it was Celium. He goes and says he plays on, like, 8-9 sensitivity. I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like, how do you play like that? But he's a freak.
A bad MC.
Yeah,
Good freak. Good freak.
Good freak. Good freak.
Ayo?
Good freak. Yeah. No.
Sorry.
In a good way. He can play.
When you were like playing Call of Duty and stuff, did you play a lot of COD by yourself, or did you, meet a bunch of people in high school and play with them, or did you just solo queue?
I made friends in like online lobbies and stuff. I think one of like my best memories, and that I actually can remember because a really bad memory, was playing Black Ops 2 in high school and playing with the specific group of guys, and we would get on and we would play survival on town on zombies together for like hours, and sometimes I'd convince them to play multiplayer with me, and we were friends like through like Black Ops 3 as well. Like we all had each other added and stuff, and we had our little group chat on like, what was it? It was like one of those dumb apps back in the day. Like we had a group chat on, and we'd be like, "Are you getting on site?" I actually had one of them. I've lost contact from most of them just because they were PS4 friends. They didn't really have any other socials, but one of them, I want to say around a year ago, came into my Twitch chat and like my Instagram DMs, and I was like, "Oh my god, do you remember me? My name is so and so." And like they said something that only like our friend group would know, and I was like, "Oh my god, like that's crazy." But yeah, I just made friends online. I didn't play with anybody from school at all. I didn't really have like friends in school or anything.
I mean, yeah, Mike and I didn't really either. We just had our small little group, and again, now it's just us two. And there were a group of people that played a lot of COD, and I remember sitting at the lunchroom table. They're like, "Man, we're so good, we can beat anyone." And I just remember, my ego so high and inflated back then. I'm sitting there, I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Yeah, sure.
They don't know. They don't know about me though.
Yeah,
they don't know.
You and I would just like, we would have the hats down, just like, what you know, bro? We're like, come on, son. But yeah, it was so cool too, because we had a lot of friends. I think we had like 2 or 3 other guys that we would play with from time to time. It was me and then one of our other friends from high school that we would play from time to time. But it's so strange though, right? How you're friends with these guys online, and they lived in like South Carolina.
Yeah, they lived heck knows where. I don't even remember.
Right? Yeah, I had no idea where they were. Like, I just knew that about them, and then finding out they had names, I'm like, bro, you're a real person.
Finding out they had names.
Yeah. And then you see them now, like years later. I remember they'd friended us on like Facebook, because
you can never call them their first name though. Like you can never actually call them their name. Like it feels weird.
Oh yeah. I mean, those guys now, I can't even remember. It's been over a decade probably since I ever talked to them. But to see them now, they're like, functioning members of society. I'm like, bro. I'm like, dude, the stuff that we would do in these games. Yeah, it does. It feels so long ago though.
Yeah,
because it is.
It was. I feel like that time playing MW3, I thought we would just be stuck in that time period forever, and nothing would ever change. And obviously, it didn't.
Well, yeah, dude. And now there are these like with MW3 that's coming around the corner. Like when we go on Twitter and you see these people that like they're realizing there was an old MW3. That hurts my brain.
To separate like Modern Warfare 2 and old Modern Warfare. I was actually just having a conversation with somebody about this, because I was really? Oh yeah, Modern Warfare 2 was okay, and they were like, okay, I was the best game. I was like, no, wrong one. I meant the most recent one, not the original. Why can't
Right.
they just come up with new names, man?
I know.
Yeah, that would do us a big service. I see people, they'll do M, like they'll do the uppercase M, the lowercase W, and the number 2, and that's like the symbol for the old MW2. Now the new one is all uppercase, and then it's the Roman numerals for 2. You know. Now I mean, I ended up playing what I think it was MW. I think MW3 was probably the first one that we really grinded out a lot together, wasn't it?
Yeah, together.
'Cause we didn't. Yeah,
Yep.
we didn't play together a ton on MW2.
Yeah, no. That was my first COD. I sucked.
So.
Definitely did not play with you.
Now, my first, I think that was. Oh, I don't know. I played that COD a lot though. My first COD was on. I always say it was Call of Duty Finest Hour. Do you know about that one? That was that was on the PS2.
Oh my god!
It was. Yeah, I know. Right. I was fortunate to have the PS2, so I remember I had that. I didn't have online for it, but I remember playing that and then the Medal of Honor series. Those were the first like FPSs. Are you familiar with that series at all? The Medal of Honor games.
Medal of Honor. I think it sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Yeah, those were the games that they were right before Call of Duty. Like Medal of Honor was popping, and then COD came out, and ever since then, Medal of Honor just went on a steep decline until it eventually just expired because COD took over.
Yeah.
But no, my first COD, like big time, was COD World at War. I still love that game. And then my devastation with COD World War II.
Really? I thought a lot of people liked World War II.
I could go into like a rant, at least for me. But...
Okay, we're gonna go with no.
I
mean, look, yeah, Justin, you go. You're stronger about this than I am.
I hate that game. Yeah. I know it was really good for competitive. A lot of people in the competitive community love it. Obviously, us as casuals, I didn't enjoy it very much, and I just remember I pre-ordered it. It was the first COD that like I ever pre-ordered. Got it at launch.
First?
Yeah. And
you never went to GameStop and sat in the long midnight line waiting for the game to drop?
Not for COD, but for other games I have, yeah. But I remember I was in college. I got it. I loaded it in. I played like, a couple of games, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. Because I loved Black Ops 3. I love jetpacks.
It's hard going from Black Ops 3 to World War 2. That's like a really dramatic change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think that one's looked upon enough. Like that drastic shift in what Call of Duty ended up doing.
That is a drastic shift.
Now, are you a big fan of the jetpack era of Call of Duty? Did you like that or no?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that era, especially Black Ops 3. That's when World War II was out. When I got into the competitive side, I started playing Black Ops 3 wagers as soon as I got home because Black Ops 4 wasn't out yet. So I'd go home and I started playing Black Ops 3 wagers. I thought it was really fun. But again, all pre that, like I'd never seen a lick of competitive Call of Duty and just played it casually. So my memory is a bit fried. But I do remember staying out till midnight at the midnight releases. At Ghost, I still have the Ghost dog tag.
Damn, you really? Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool. Now, we were just talking with our friend about it with Ghost because Ghost is his favorite COD. Yeah, which I think is a very rare opinion.
Yep.
Is that up there for you or
opinion.
No?
I agree.
I like that. Yeah, that's 3 of us. Ghost for me, way bottom.
Yeah, no. Black Ops 2 is a easy number 1 spot take for me. I mean, just the maps, the guns, the way the game felt. Obviously, I feel like if we played that game now, it would feel really old. But like for its time, incredible game. I mean, every game mode was incredible. The campaign was great, the multiplayer was great, and the zombies are great. Love Black Ops 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think Black Ops 2 definitely gets the appropriate amount of praise.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, I think with both of us, like Justin and I, we played Black Ops 2, but didn't play it a ton. Not for any bad reason. I honestly have no idea why we didn't, because we, like, both of us put probably 40 days or so in MW3. And then for whatever reason, when it came to Black Ops 2, we just like dropped the ball on that game.
I watched more competitive in Black Ops 2 than actually play Black Ops 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I know I didn't get Black Ops 2 till like later on, just because like I have to save up during Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
Christmas is my birthday. But yeah, that's when I really got into competitive, and it's weird because I don't think there's another COD where I watched more competitive than actually play.
I would say for both of us, probably MW 2019.
I'm about to say those words were about to come out of my mouth. Modern Warfare 2019. Yeah. There's no way you played that game more than you watched.
That's true. We went to BO4.
Yeah, well, we did.
Yeah.
So I remember we were what? This is like junior year of college. Was it junior? No, was it junior senior year? It's like right at the end.
Yeah, right towards the end.
Yeah, and I remember we were playing it when we started, like, because during this time we weren't playing a lot together just because of school and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then we were like, all right, let's get back into it, And we're like, man, the new COD, we're gonna be hyped for it. And then we started playing it, and we both had the World War II thought. We're just like, bro, this ain't it. But the only thing, like the saving grace, we've said it on tons of episodes for us. The saving grace of that game for us was the 2v2s.
I didn't play any of the 2v2s.
that was the only thing for us that was like relatively redeeming. I thought the maps in that game were I did not like the maps in
all
that game.
Opinions and words I say are my own.
yeah, exactly. You can plead the fifth. I did not like this game's old though. This game's old, because MW2 is a fantastic game, right? There's nothing ever wrong with that game, of course. But no, there were things on that game that we weren't really crazy about. And once again, coming from Black Ops 4 for you, that's such a shift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially because I was in that competitive kick too. I was like, wow, this is great. Like, because Black Ops 4, like everybody's passion was so high for competitive. Mm-hmm. Like, no matter who you were, where you were, what time it was, you could find a tens lobby. Like, it was really, really easy. Even the rank system was like fun to play by the time that it came out. So like Black Ops 4, everybody was on at like all times. Like, you could always play. And then going from that to Modern Warfare 2019, like, it's like half the community was just gone. Like, it was so hard to find people to play with. It was so hard. Like, everybody, it was either the pros playing in their scrims and whatnot, and then like challengers players playing in their scrims, and that was it. Like, there was no like below level of that of like competitive play. Like, not many people played like tournaments, not many people hosted tournaments, not many people wanted to play eights or anything. Like, it was night and day from Black Ops 4. And I feel like it's kind of stayed there since then. It's gotten a little bit better. I think during Modern Warfare 2, this past game, it's gotten a little bit better. And obviously I hope that it keeps like going up, but it's like still nowhere near as close as Black Ops 4 was.
Now, do you think that's a game issue, or do you think that's just like it's a community thing?
Leaning more heavily towards the game issue. Obviously the game needs to be really fun to play competitively for people to want to have the passion, because not everybody, at least for me, like I always have the itch to play COD. That's just because it's my special interest. It's like the center of my life, of my universe. So like, even if I don't think the game is that good, like I still want to play. Like, I still have that urge to play, where I understand that like 90% of people aren't like that. So like, if they don't really enjoy playing the game and don't have that itch, like the game, like the competitive community just kind of dies. Like, there's just nothing there. So I think specifically it's a little bit more of a game issue. I think we've lost some community just because, it's not as easy to break into the scene, or at least from the outside, it seems like it's not as easy. I honestly think we've seen more people come up and being brought into the professional scene in the past couple of years than we have ever seen. Granted, I'm newer and I've only been here for the past couple of years, but I feel like the mindset of it's so much harder to make it now, it's so much harder to get on challenger team, isn't necessarily true. If anything, I almost feel like it's slightly easier, but that's a hot take.
I don't think it's a hot take. I would agree with that take.
Really? Everybody, I feel like everybody's like, oh, it's so much harder now, there's no passion. And I'm like, I've seen so many more people make a name for themselves in the past 2 years than I did during the open bracket time.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too is just like more teams are making content of, these That's younger players like coming up. So we're able to see them and see if they're good or not. Cause I just remember back in the day, like I didn't know who was coming up like this.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's really good. And then maybe like a game later, I see them on like a team I actually know. Like, oh, wow, they actually made it.
And it was so hard because my first year obviously was doing open bracket before we moved into the challenger format. and there was nothing on anybody. Like I was in the like open bracket pit, like asking people at their setups, "Hi, what is your name? Like, what gun do you roll? Like, how long has your team been together?" Like, I had to ask everything because like I knew nobody, and that's obviously the excitement in the open bracket as well is constantly having all these crazy upsets and maybe people that come out of nowhere and whatnot, and like those were fun to watch. Like one of the first matches I watched was a team coming from open bracket, like possibly beating like United or something, like one of the better teams during Anaheim, and like everybody was freaking out over it. Oh, it was like Conquest versus Optic or something, and like everybody's freaking out. And I understand the excitement there, but like challengers now, like I'm not really following challengers that closely, but I still hear names. Like I still hear people that I should be keeping my eyes on. I see content pieces, I see other coaches and people talking about it. Like there's just so much more of a saturation of actually creating a person behind like a lot of the players that are looking to join the pro scene. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you look at like, unfortunately, I would say like a lot of the like lower teams, but some of these guys that come in, they make a big name for themselves because they overperform on that team, and
Yeah.
then they may end up launching their career.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people do forget when they see some of these guys where exactly they came from.
Yeah.
People think that they just kind of spawned out of thin air. They're like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, they were
yeah.
just like, oh yeah, they were just playing like they're like Diamond 3 in ranked, and then all of a sudden they got their shot. It's like, no,
No.
they like they've been like performing at the highest level in challengers, and then they end up I mean, that's what I didn't really realize it because I'm like you, I didn't follow challengers at all, but that's where like Hydra came from. Gizmo came from there. I think Pred did. He was in like
Yep.
challenges to an extent. I mean,
Exceed,
and that
Joe Deceives, like everybody.
Snoopy,
Snoopy, Kremp.
yeah, pretty much actually everybody on Boston.
Like
yeah.
like so many
Yeah.
so many new players have been, obviously we've had a lot of retirements as well, but like so many new players have been brought into the professional scene. And we've tried to touch on the broadcast so much because that is like my favorite talking point is like we've doubled the amount of challenger players that's moved up like to the professional level in like the past year. Like how do we not see this happening and be excited for it and still say that it's so much harder, because it's just not.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's great for the scene that like these new guys coming up, they're getting more exposure, because again, like back in the day, people like Mike and I, we wouldn't be seeing them, and we're like, who is this person? I don't know anything
Yeah.
about them. And obviously, what's special about Call of Duty is that you get to meet the players and like get to know them like personally.
Mhm.
They have all these storylines and stuff, and I love that. Like Snoopy, for example, like we met Snoopy, and that Eric's a really good guy, really good kid, and I just love that COD. You can meet these players and understand the personality, and back in the day, you just didn't get that.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with the organizations, I feel like, kind of pushing that content wave now. And I'm the same way. I always tell people like the biggest difference between like video game esports and like sports in general, obviously not only the physical stuff, but because like you can go and watch your favorite player stream on Twitch. Like you can go and watch a YouTube video about them. Like very rarely can you do that for any like traditional sports players. And also like I feel like it's a big learning for a lot of the younger players coming up now of like how important content is and like how important it is to like make a personality for themselves and make sure that they output the best versions of themselves to the media and to the people around them and stuff, because there's a lot of players that have just kind of like retired and had to like go back to like a normal life. And like I know for me, I couldn't imagine doing that. I know a lot of us in gaming couldn't imagine doing that. And it's about teaching the younger audience and the younger players or the younger casters or whoever, like how important it is to put yourself out there consistently. Because I knew players that just refused to stream, blah, blah, blah. They just wanted to be a player. Not that anything's wrong with that. Obviously, if you don't want to be in front of a camera really, and you truly just have the passion for playing and don't want anything to do with it beyond that, more power to you. That's how it is. But on the flip side of things, like it is a career path now, and it is just continuously like growing and becoming more and more and more and more serious. But that also means there's more and more competition, meaning that you need to stand out more and you need to put yourself out there, because what if you're a mediocre player? You know, what if you're a mid-tier player, but you have a fantastic personality? You know, you're hilarious, or you're really great at this other game, or you're really, you know, whatever, you're really meaningful. People connect with you. You know, what's going to happen when the younger kids come up and push you out of your spot and bump you out of that roster spot? Then what? You're going to go, you know, you're going to go work a 9 to 5. You probably, you know, if you came in at 18, you might have not gone to college. Time to go back. Time to use all those prize earnings to get that college degree because you didn't put yourself out there, you know? So I'm really happy that that content push is kind of happening.
Yeah. And Mike and I are very much, I think all players should be doing content. I know, like you said, some players don't want to be in front of the camera, and that's fine, but they have to be okay with, if they're retiring, then, you know, you don't really have a backup unless, you know, you've gotten your degree or something beforehand. But yeah, like when we've gone to these like LAN events and stuff, seeing these younger guys, like Mike and I are ancient to them, which I find crazy because we're 25.
Seriously, you laugh, but sometimes the
I'm
looks that they
2
give us, they're
years
like,
younger than you. This is making me feel terrible.
No, you're not. You're not old. I don't think we're old, but according to
not
these
at all.
guys, like
if we were
actually,
if
no,
we were
that's
like,
so true, because I have a friend, so I play competitive sometimes, and I have some younger friends, and I say younger, I'd be like 18 and
18?
19.
Yes.
They call
Right.
me grandma, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I sunned you in the competitive side. Like, how dare you? So
Yeah.
So I'll tell you too, like going on a tangent or like side note. So I'm a school teacher. That's my job outside of this, right? And like I teach grades 5 through 8, and those kids, they're same thing. They're like, man, you old, bro, you old. I'm like, dude, you're 11, you know? But they think, like, to them, that's just like it's ancient, you know, and especially for us too, like playing COD, like these kids who are 16, 17, you know, they're like, bro, what? Like, what COD did you start on?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, come
Dude.
on.
And at these LAN events too, I work in finance. So I'm really big in like, save your money, please be smart with it, because if you have the opportunity to get, you know, onto an amateur team or even the CDL, like, please be smart, because it's a dream for so many people, right? And I want a lot of people to, you know, be able to do this for as long as they can without, you know, blowing all their prize earnings or their salaries or whatever. So sometimes at the LAN events, I'll be like, look, guys, you just won. Don't go buy your Gucci shoes. Don't go like spend your money on this. Just, you know, spend some of it. And they're like, yeah, all right, whatever, grandpa. I'm like, all right, dude, whatever.
All right.
But no, I mean,
that's when you bring up the KD. It's like, where are you at on the KD leaderboard? Hold on.
Yeah. They're gonna make a career out of it. I'm like, hold on, bro. I'm like, we need to get that skill up a little bit, my friend. But no, you said it perfectly prior. About like just the pathway for a lot of these pros. And I think now more than ever, because of the audience in Call of Duty, like granted, Call of Duty is still a small esport in the grand scheme of other esports. But there's still so many people that are tuning in. I mean, and you've done it yourself, right? Like, hasn't your audience grown massively because of like you're on stream? Yeah. Like you can just immediately translate like, okay, there's people on who are watching me on the CDL stream, you know, whether they like me or not, doesn't matter. They're going to see me live on Twitch and tune into me. And that's a viewer.
That's like my favorite pull is when like anybody tries to be toxic to me, especially when I'm in like during the season and I'm playing ranked games and like people try to get in game chat and they're like, is that Allycxt? Like just say horrid things to me. I'm like, all right, see you guys on Friday night. Like make sure like you're gonna see my face on your TV or your monitor screen in a couple of hours, but like come on.
You're like, you're watching me. You're watching me, by the way, bro.
Yeah.
No, seriously. But it is tough though. And I mean, like Justin, like echoing what he said, I think it is really important for a lot of these guys to take matters into their own hands eventually. Like, and that's like being with a good organization. I mean, we're from Massachusetts. We're huge Breach fans, and it's really nice to see like not just gassing them up unnecessarily. Like that org has done a really good job of putting out content and really pushing their players to be like, look, this is going to be a launching pad for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you should really try to take advantage of it as much as you can.
Absolutely. I love Boston. I love Oxygen, everything they're doing over there. They've helped a lot on my end as well. And they're also just all great people, as you guys, I'm sure know, as you've talked to almost everybody on the team at this point. When you guys sent me like your previous podcast, I was like, it's all of my favorite people. But like they just don't understand like the funneling of it all. Like the second I realized like they don't realize how many people are really watching them. Like I feel like that sometimes doesn't sink in because before like franchising, before I was an analyst and I was just a caster, like I was streaming on Twitch. I was playing my little League of Legends and I was playing my little competitive COD every once in a while. I had been streaming for like 2-3 years at that point, or like 2 years. And, I was averaging my little 20 to 30 viewers. It was a grind and I still enjoyed it. And, that was still like a decent amount considering the competitiveness of Twitch. But obviously, I get moved to the desk, which, funny story, how I told you I was basically thrown into casting. I was also thrown into being an analyst. Side story. I was supposed to be a casting duo with Ton my first year. It was supposed to be me and Ton as a casting duo. But
that would have been
Tons.
sick. Yeah.
So I would have had an accent. I couldn't have helped it. I would have had an accent by the end of the year. I would have been British cat and it would have made no sense. But so he couldn't get to kickoff in Texas for the first event. And so they hadn't filled like the third or fourth or whatever spot in the desk yet. And they were like, okay, let's just put you on the desk for this event until, Tons visa or whatever is worked out. And they put me on the desk. And again, another situation where I think I just did okay enough where they were like, you know what? It's easier to replace you as a caster than to keep trying to find somebody to put on the desk. Because I guess they were struggling to find somebody to put on the desk. And so they were like, do you want to move to Columbus and be on the desk instead as an analyst? And I was like, but sure. Sorry, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, fuck it, sure. And then I was moved to the desk. And then they brought Bryce up to be Bryce and Ton, as it should have always been. The world, everything was right with the world. But yeah, so that's another funny story. But talking about the viewership shit, like going from that, like, little 20, 30 viewers, and then going to hundreds of thousands on the CDL broadcast was a lot to take in. I went from 7,000 followers on Twitter that first month of kickoff to it's been what, a year now, year and a half, and I'm at 80,000. I think by the end of that weekend I was at like 15,000. Like it was just rolling. A month later I was at like 30. Like I figured at some point, hopefully, streaming went right and I hit those milestones, but like to hit them so quickly, like I would just blink and my dad would send me screenshots of like, oh, look, you hit 20,000. Oh, look, you hit 30. Oh, look, there's 35. Instagram went from like a couple thousand to 30,000. Like I was just blinking on all this crazy stuff was happening. I'd go live on Twitch. Suddenly I had 500 average viewers and I was like, oh my God, like so much is happening. And that's what these players don't understand is like the funneling of viewership. Because now, now my Twitch is doing well. Now my Instagram and my Twitter, all those socials are doing well. Those are all avenues of just passive income that just kind of exist. I can found something like the WXC, and then I can take what viewership from the CDL funneled to me, from me to that, and even sometimes funnel from the CDL straight to that. And I release music, I can now funnel the viewership from CDL to me to my music. And I want to release apparel and stuff, I can funnel it there. Like it's just so many avenues of passive income that you can just create and keep going and keep just pushing, and it just will continue to grow because then audience brings more audience. So you keep giving your audience things, you'll keep getting more audience and bringing them in, even if they aren't into gaming. Maybe they're into my music. If they aren't into gaming, maybe they're into my clothes, so on and so forth.
Wise words from Allie right there. Very wise words at 23 years old. Because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, or that maybe they do and they just ignore it. I don't know, but like you said, I know we want to touch upon this at WXC, but the one thing I wanted to talk about before was how was going to like your first live event as an analyst, and you review streaming to whatever your X number of viewers, and then going to a live event and just seeing everyone there in person. How's that experience?
It was super nerve-wracking. If we're talking about like kickoff when I was just kind of put on the desk, especially because once again, it was a job I didn't know how to do and I'd never done or thought I was gonna do in my life. So like it was just on top of being like my first like really big live event, like it was also doing something completely new. And it was something that definitely had a lot more levels of stress to it because being an analyst, I'd never seen any woman analyst in Call of Duty. I didn't really like have anybody much to look up to unless like, I went back years and years and years before. And so it was just kind of like I wasn't a retired professional. I wasn't a coach. I wasn't even a GM. I was just, a really amateur competitive player that had a really good mind for the game. My mechanics are okay. My IQ is through the roof, but like that wasn't enough to convince people to, listen to me. That wasn't enough to convince them that I knew what I was talking about. And that is being my debut. So I'm being put on the desk and everybody's like, if they don't know me from casting challengers, which not many people did, it's who the fuck is this? It's like, who is this girl that they just, plopped into this chair that's, telling me about these teams that I've watched for years and telling me about these players that I've watched for years and da 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 da. So it was really nerve wracking. It was slightly easier because usually the desk isn't facing the audience. So usually it's still just facing a camera, and talking to a camera is just so much different than talking to like actual faces and people because you don't think about the thousands of people behind the camera. You just think of the equipment and the cameraman. And you and the cameraman are usually vibing and cool. And so like you're not as nervous, but you know, you hear your voice echoing in the room, and I get this feeling in my hand that I have to rub out, and I'm like, all right, I get it. I'm nervous. Can we just like pull this back? But thankfully, my first day, I don't think I could have asked for it to go better. My very first day on the desk, I got every single series right and the map prediction right. And that was kind of like what gave me the confidence to go through the weekend, because like as an analyst you're not always going to get a prediction right. Like a prediction's for fun at the end of the day. Like I'm not getting paid to be right on guessing if Atlanta FaZe is going to be optic 3-2. Like that's not what I'm getting paid for. I'm getting paid to explain the game to you and explain the game to casual viewers, or even further in depth to people who have been watching for a while, and explain the game afterwards of why a certain team won and why a certain team lost and why this player didn't do well or why this player did well, key factors of the game. I'm supposed to break it down. That's the job of an analyst. So predictions are always just for fun, but most casual viewers, that's where they hold most of the weight in what you're saying. They hold a lot of the weight in, oh, well, do you know who's going to win this match then, since you're so smart? And that day I was in fact so smart. I got every single one of them right. And so it was like,
Right.
that first step of confidence of like, nobody can say I don't deserve to be here right now. Like, because I already knew what I was talking about. I knew that I knew what I was talking about. Like I had my own confidence, but kind of it was like a release of stress off my shoulders of like, I have something to back me now. Like I can say that, oh, I got all day one right, because me sitting there and being like, what are my credentials? Well, I placed top 8 in a Texas local one time. Like that's not as convincing as, like, oh, day one, I had a perfect prediction record. So nerve wracking, but I handled it okay.
Yeah, and then also like when you have other people that are on the desk with you, like Nameless or Study, like people who have like
Yeah.
they've competed at the highest level. I would be I would be just like you. I'd be like, dude, what do I know compared to these people? Like these guys have played the game at the most stressful level, and they truly know the game. But it's reassuring too because even they get it wrong,
Yeah.
But that's what makes it fun.
That is what makes it
Exactly.
fun, especially when sometimes I feel like I know something they don't, or like I feel like I'm right, and then I prove myself to be right, and I'm like, like it's
Well,
another kick of confidence.
like I loved it when I mean it's that legendary game that happened in MW2 with what was it? I can't remember what major it was. Again, my memory's bad on it. It was Thieves and Legion. And I remember watching
On
Zuma stream.
Hotel.
And, yeah, on
Hotel Convex.
Hotel Map 1. Yeah, and you watch Zuma and Ben and Krim, they're all just like, yeah, man, they're falling apart. Like it's over. It's like
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Clay's got to hang up Tej. He's terrible. And then they're just like, hold on, they're bringing it back. They're coming
Yeah,
back
yeah.
right now. Like nobody expected that. And it doesn't matter how long you've been playing the game. or like, what experience you have, you can never predict those moments. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, they're just going to rally the troops, and thieves are just going to get off the gas pedal and end up losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love those moments. I live for those in Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, and being in the crowd during that too, it's fantastic.
Oh my god. Well, that was just like us when we were at the because we've been to 2 majors. We went to the New York major last year during the Vanguard. Yeah, that was a great one. I mean, it lives in our hearts because it was our first one ever, but that theater was fantastic.
Theater was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was so cool. We were so disappointed they couldn't go back again.
I know.
But then the other one that we went to was the Boston major this year.
Banger.
And,
also a great one.
Yeah, and being in the crowd, like with those fans, I remember it was that the Surge map with the elusive cruise missile.
Yeah.
That ended, like being there for that moment, and seeing Vivid like stand up yelling at him. I was like, we're just looking at each other like, is this real life right now?
It's real.
Yeah, it's surreal.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite major?
Like of all time, or just like location? There's a lot of factors, like location, or who won it. Like
one that you casted.
That's a good one.
Let's do that.
Casted or was an analyst? Those are two different questions. We're gonna go with analyst.
Analyst.
It has to be okay. I have a special place in my heart for this past Optic major, only because it was the most fun I got to personally have with the crowd, and like felt like they were responsive to me. During that major basically is when I activated the Allycxt curse, where on day one I believe they were playing Boston or something, and I picked Optic to win and they lost. And so I made it a joke when they went to losers and was like, I'm not going to mess it up again this time. I'm going to pick, and I picked the other team. And at first people were kind of confused, but then Optic won. And then it happened again. They played again, and I was like, you guys know the deal. And I picked the other team. And then slowly cheers started to happen, which never happens. You'll never get a cheer for the other team when Optic is on the stage. And by the last match, I had the entire crowd just roaring when I would pick against Optic. And it was like one of the coolest feelings I've had as an analyst, because it's very rarely I interact with the crowd. I don't have a lot of confidence in it right now. But like that was like a really wholesome moment for me and like the community in my heart, to be like, we created this like fun little thing and we did it, and it was so cool. And unfortunately Optic didn't win, but we tried.
It's the way it goes.
It's the way it goes. Well, location though, probably like New York or Toronto.
That's fair. I mean, you came to Boston when it was record-breaking cold.
Yeah, it was really cold in Boston, but I did like the venue a lot. I just felt like maybe it could have been a little bit bigger.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. Boston's very I mean, we grew up in Massachusetts. Boston's just so crammed. Like the roads don't make sense.
No, that city literally makes no sense.
I was a little confused in some of them. There was like really sharp corners too that still somehow had buildings on them, and I'm like, I don't understand.
I do hope
that's the only thing New York has on us is it's actually like a grid. That's the only thing I got.
I do hope we go back to Boston next season.
That was
actually
really
warm,
major.
like during the spring, because it's not like that. I swear, it's not like that.
I'm hoping for Boston again. Texas is always okay, honestly, but I want Boston again. I want Toronto. I want Minnesota. I love Minnesota. I'm a guilty pleasure for Minnesota. I'd love if we went somewhere new, like Seattle or something. Oh, I would kill for a Seattle. And maybe a Florida one. Maybe now with Heretics. Maybe we'll get
Miami.
We'll go to Florida. Maybe Miami again. I haven't seen that since Black Ops 4.
Would you ever want to go overseas for a major?
Oh yeah. I was supposed to go to London like 2 years ago, and then it got canceled because of like COVID or something. I was so mad because it would have been my first time going to Europe, because I've never been to Europe.
Oh, you have to go. Like one day.
I want to go so bad. Well, my mom was born in Germany, so I have like a whole side of family I've never met. So I've always been like, I need to go to Europe and find my lost family that no idea I
Mhm.
exist. But maybe one day.
No, you definitely will. I hope one day that the CDL branches out to, globally,
Yeah.
and you guys get to travel everywhere.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say too, man, because I just saw that with Valorant, because I've been watching Valorant. I've never played a game of Valorant in my life, Allie. I don't know if you play,
I've played a couple. I've played
but
a couple.
right. So I literally I'm only watching this game. I try so hard to like follow it because I'm like maybe take some of my COD knowledge there. But they're hosting a major. I think it's next year in Spain. I'm like, dude, that's the
That
coolest
is
thing in the
so
world.
cool. Why can't we
Yeah.
go to cool places like that? No more homestands. Let's just go to the Caribbean so we can all have fun and hang out.
No, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I hope
agree.
they do. Just before you go, because I know what you're gonna end up asking about, which I want to as well. I was gonna ask Allie,
Yeah.
like speaking about Valorant, um, like being a female in the analyst role. I know that there's a couple of females that are also in Valorant who do the casting. I believe it's Mimi is one of them, and then another one. I think there's two other girls that end up doing it. And I was just wondering if there's like a community that you have, like a camaraderie amongst you guys, like because you're in a very rarefied space of being female casters for video games. Like, do you guys ever like get in contact with each other? Do you guys know each other at all, or no?
Shockingly, no. I think the reason being is kind of like I think not only like just men and women, but I think like they kind of stay in their own game bubbles. I'm sure in Valorant, all those girls and all the casters and hosts and stuff keep up with each other. I know I have some mutuals that like I follow on social media that are in other games and other roles. And every once in a while we'll like interact on the timeline or like if something happens. I've definitely gotten DMs from a couple of them before. I'm like, hey, like if you need anything, like we're here. Like they're definitely all like super sweet from what I've gotten to know about them. And I know that if I really did need anything or wanted to reach out, I probably could, and it would probably be successful. But there isn't like a girly group chat. Trust me, I would love that, but there's no like girly group chat of all the girls, casting and analysts and hosts in the esports space. My closest to home person that I have in Call of Duty is Lottie. I love Lottie so much. And I was so happy that she was at Champs because it gave me somebody to hang out with. And not that I don't hang out with the guys, but to a point, like it's just so nice to have some feminine energy around outside of like the hair and makeup artist to like hang out with and go get food and just be girly and be girls. So I do hold Lottie very close to my heart, and I talk to her every once in a while.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I've just been thinking about it because again, like you're the first analyst that we've ever had, or any like commentator, any level like that. And I always wonder because it's such an odd thing, just there's only a handful of people that really do this,
Yeah.
and do it at a professional level. And it's the same thing. Like I wonder about any of the other hosts if they ever talk to anybody else outside of COD, or like you said, do they just stay in there like they're in the Valorant
We're
bubble?
pretty
They're in,
bubbled. We have a
yeah,
so we have a
yeah,
Twitter group chat with like all of our COD people in it, and like it's not as active because it's the off season, but like I'm pretty sure they were messaging in it today. Like I literally saw Bryson Ton in there. So we do have like our little group chat on Twitter where it's like all of us in like the COD space on the professional level, like saw the casters, and Puckett and stuff. And I think even Guy Blaze is in there. So we do have our little group chat, and I'm assuming in other
shout
esports
out
they
Guy
also
Blaze.
also have their little group chat.
Yeah, that's what I assumed too. But Justin, we got to get in with this, man. I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah.
Oh
So
God.
obviously you're the founder of the WXC.
Okay.
We so Mike and I have always wondered why. First off, the COD community is just so toxic, and we're very much the glass is always half full. It always is. And for some reason, the COD community is so toxic, and especially very toxic towards women for whatever reason.
Existing.
Yeah, apparently. And what was your goal and reasoning for starting, the WXC? Because I think it's great, and obviously, I know a bunch of other people do too. But we wanted to like ask you and get your reasoning.
The
I appreciate
origins.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. The funny thing is, depending who you ask, a lot of people have differing stance on, like, they obviously agree like women shouldn't be treated badly in the gaming space, just because of their gender. But a lot of times, people will be like, well, what's the point of like a segregated league? Like, what's the point of having like an all girls tournament or whatever? And like separating it that way, like, wouldn't that just make it worse or whatever? And to be honest, growing up gaming, like, I kind of used to think that way. I want to say for like my first year in competitive gaming, I definitely thought that way. I was like, especially as a competitor, it's like, I can hang with the guys. Like, there's no reason for me to have to go only play with girls. Like, I want to be at the best level. To be the best, you have to beat the best, and you have to beat everybody to do that. So I was very much like, I just want to put the work in, and I just want to get better, and da da da. But it's a lot different when you start to experience it firsthand, because I went in with that mindset, and the game I got introduced in was Black Ops 4. And during that time period, like, people were still weird to me for being a girl. And there were still people that wouldn't, scrim me. They wouldn't play with me. They wouldn't play against me, or they quote unquote wouldn't try because they're playing a girl. There were still people like that. But because it was so oversaturated at the time, I could still find, tens to play. Like, I could still find people to play with me. So I didn't feel it maybe as much until the following game came out. So when Modern Warfare 19 came out, I was still a competitor. I still tried to compete and play in it. I mean, that was the year I started playing League of Legends, but we're not getting into that. And I tried to compete, and the saturation of the competitive community obviously had a huge drop off, and I couldn't find anything to play. And that's when I really felt the difference of being like a woman trying to play competitively in the Call of Duty scene. Because, like, there was multiple instances even in the past year where, like, I'd want to go play at a local or something with some of my friends, or want to play a tournament. And I mean, you would not believe some of the things that I have been told. I have had somebody tell me that I cannot be their fourth because somebody on the team said they would be distracted if I was sitting next to them, that they wouldn't be able to play the game because I'm sitting next to them. I've had people tell me that, oh, just sit across from them, the enemy, and you'll distract them enough. Or, we're not going to play your team or scrim your team because you're a girl. And then therefore I can't get on a team, because even if I find 3 people that don't mind playing with a girl, now we have to find scrims of people who don't mind playing against a girl. And then I also have to find scrims of people who don't mind playing against a girl and also will actually try hard against a girl. And not only that, try hard against a girl, and then if I am better than them, or if we beat them, they don't leave mid scrim, heaven forbid mid map, and not finish it out. Like, it's a stack on top of a stack on top of a stack on top of a stack. Like, it's like all these little hoops and things you have to jump over to get a good competitive scrim. Like, there's so many avenues. And as I started getting to casting and, becoming more in the scene, a lot of people would come to me and be like, you're like this figure now that girls, look up to. And, you're like one of the first that we've ever seen, especially in this specific position. And, that was a lot for me because I'd never seen myself that way, obviously. And I was 18, 19, 20. Like, I was still figuring out who I was. I was still figuring out things about myself. Like, I didn't even know my favorite color. Like, how am I supposed to role model somebody else? So it was a really stressful time. And so trying to juggle all of those things, I kind of stopped playing competitively as much and started focusing more on my career and what I was going to do with everything that was happening, what avenues I was going to try and pursue, what are my realistic options? Because at that point, being a competitor wasn't that realistic. As much as I still try and play, by the time I have a job as an analyst, like, it's obviously not that realistic anymore. And as I would continue playing, I was kind of like hard to find girls to play with. There was a girl scene, but they were kind of cliquey. They were kind of, and rightfully so, they very much felt safe around just each other and themselves. And there were already a couple of like girl league things that were going on hosted by girls in the community. And all the time, I never really took part in them. I think I subbed in for like a match or two of one of them. and I didn't really like the vibe, and it didn't have that many eyes on it, and a lot of the girls were complaining that it was very friendship ran and all these rules were getting broken. It was like they were complaining about the professionalism and whatnot, and just hearing those complaints constantly, I was just like, at one day I sat back and was like, if anybody was going to create something, that would be taken seriously and already have, people interested in watching or whatnot, and to get eyes on the girls and the women scene. Because, you can say you support women gamers all you want, but it's about the actions, it's about creating the spaces, it's about, holding people accountable. And that just wasn't really happening. So I was like, if anybody was going to do it, it's going to be me. Just because, again, I'm being put on this kind of pedestal of like, oh, girls are looking up to you and da 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 da. And, even though I didn't see myself that way, I understood the position that I was in. And I also understood that if I was going to do it, I wasn't going to be able to compete for a while right away. And that was hard for me to swallow. So I didn't want to for the longest time. And the girl scene also hadn't treated me very well. So I was like, I'm sticking my neck out if I do this. Is it worth it? And then I met my best friend. Her name's Tasia T. COD. I'm sure some of you may have heard of. If not, she is the best female competitor I've ever played with. I mean, light years beyond me. She is so good at the game. She not only has like the mechanical skill, but her IQ is really good as well. And I just, I was like, I need to do this, because there's girls like T who don't get taken seriously or get, hackusated or whatever. And, she's one of the better players I've ever played against. I've played against, pros, obviously I've never been in scrims or anything, but, I've shot back against them. I've played them in tournaments. I've gotten, the blessing of being able to play alongside them sometimes. And I'm like, she's good. Like, given the environment, given, the opportunity, she can be good enough. And I just constantly see her dropped or not having teams, not having consistency. And I was like, it just reminded me of myself. And so I decided to stop trying to compete. And I tweeted out on Twitter, I was like, hey, I have this idea. And I'm going to hold this huge open meeting. Not really open, but like DM me if you want an invite. I'm going to go through this little PowerPoint I have of these ideas that I have for this women's tournament. Let me know, what you think. And so I had like 40 people interested, a little bit more than that, but people that I kind of knew I sent invites to. I went through my little PowerPoint and I got some feedback. And I had some close friends of mine that used to run LANs back in the day before COVID reach out and say, hey, we want to help you with this, like pretty directly. Like they work in production. They have their own production company. And I was like, that would be awesome. Thank you. And they came up with the rule book. We have a comps operator. His name is Don. He came up with the rule book and he helped me work out the kinks in the format. Jalen, our producer, helped set up like people that were working on the back end production wise. We held like an open call of like, if you know how to do any of these things, even if you don't, we'll teach you. Like, come on if you want to. And I cooked the name just out of my brain one day. I was just like, I wanted something that was like girly, but not like overly girly, where you made it like this whole like fairy princess power thing. Like I wanted it to be girl power, but I still wanted it to be feminine. And it made me think of Durarara, which is an anime. It made me think of Helmet, and then I was like Motorcycle Gang, and then I was like woman, COD, WXC, that just brainchild. I hit up Team Summertime's graphic designer. I was like, can you create a logo for me? He created a logo. And then we launched well before that I emailed Activision and I was like, hey, am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? Because like nobody had really done that before for the women's scene. And so I went to them and I was like, hey, am I allowed to do this? And they were like, yeah, just send it through this event form. And if you don't know, basically if you want to hold an event using Call of Duty's likeness or whatever, you have to submit an event form, basically the name, the dates, the amount of prizing, the teams, like all that, jibber jabber. And so I submit an event form and they're like, great, this sounds cool. Here, our dates and times that maybe you need to avoid because we have other stuff going on. And then Activision was also like, oh, here, we'll help you kickstart it, and gave us money. And I was like, holy crap. So like it was far beyond what I ever expected. I was in my head, I was paying out of pocket. Like my whole plan was pay out of pocket for everything. We were going to do like a $5,000 prize pool, and then I had to pay my productions. Like that was all just going to be out of me. And then Activision gave us 10,000, and then Boston Breach later on doubled our prize pool, and that was just for season 1. And so I was like, what in the world is happening? I was so confused. Everything, because I held the meeting about my idea in like March, and we had season 1 in April. Like I blinked and suddenly it had happened, and I didn't expect it to happen that fast or to have the support it had. And then I blinked and they're showing highlights on the main CDL stream of the WXC, and I blink and we're in the break between grand finals on championship Sunday, and WXC highlights are showing up, and I'm sitting here on the desk talking about it. Like I just blinked and all these things kept happening. But yeah, that's how the WXC happened. It's very fun and chaotic here in Cat World.
Yeah. That has to be surreal though when you're on stream, like just from everything that we've talked about over the past hour, like you ending up on stream doing your thing, and then now like this league that you started, like just like a dream of yours, and now it's being put on the broadcast in front of tens of thousands of people. I mean, that has to be like on almost like mentally, like it's
It's
almost
a
like too
mental boom.
much.
It's
Yeah,
literally like I still like to this
you're like,
day.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that's my thing.
yeah, like what in the world? I'll never forget the day I walked into the studio. I got handed to run a show, and they're like, "All right, we're talking about this, 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 and this, and then we're talking about WC." I was like, "Wait, what?" They're like, "Yeah," because like I didn't even ask. Like esports Hunter, I didn't even ask them to put it on broadcast. I never would have thought of that, at least not that early. And they were like, within like week number 1, yeah, we got some of your highlights in a replay package. Like we're ready to go. And I was like, "Is this allowed?" um, but to kind of go back to what the original question was of like why, I guess, well, that's like how it happened.
Mhm.
But the biggest why for me, and I think some people get confused about this, is they think that I made it as if like I expect the girls to go like from the WXC challengers to, a starting spot on Optic Texas, which is not at all what I wanted this to be. The WXC is simply a place to not only get eyes on the female community and not really prove their worth, but kind of like show that they're playing at the same level and they understand the game at the same level, but also give them an environment to cultivate any talent that they will have. Because when I was competing, that was my biggest problem, is I just couldn't get practice in. And at the end of the day, like especially with how late rank play has been coming out, like loading into a pub lobby is only going to get you so good at the game. Loading into 10s or 8s is only going to get you but so good at the game. Going into a private match and hunting for the nade spots and the wall bangs is only going to get you so good at the game. That's why the best of the best are the best, because they're playing the best, constantly pushing each other to get better at the game. That's why all of our professionals will go up against challenger teams and smoke them usually, because they're not scrimming each other. They're not getting that practice to continuously push themselves to be better. And so with the girls scene, they didn't get any of that practice. And I've seen these girls hang with top challengers. I've seen them do well in tournaments and on LAN. Heaven forbid they're given an environment to practice against each other and practice against the best, and actually form scrim schedules and have matches with money on the line, and have like this sense of intensity, because being a professional player obviously isn't just for the guys. It's not like it's a gender restricted franchise. It just hasn't really happened yet, like in the CDL era at least. So, it's also about showing them to take it more serious, that it really is something that can happen. And I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to help that happen. I'm trying to help create a space so that we can get it to happen. Am I going to be envious as heck when the first girl steps on that stage to pick up a controller and, smoke whoever? Absolutely, I am. But I'm still going to do it because I want to see it happen. And I know it is going to happen, but it's not going to happen with the way things had always been.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Very, very well said. And I love that we can feel the passion coming out of you just talking
Yeah,
about
which
it.
I
And
love.
yeah,
It
I
gets me
love that.
fucking hyped right now, bro.
Yeah, me too.
like,
Because
like seriously.
when we talk, obviously we call the COD Casuals. Like we only play COD, really. We play other games too, and just hearing the passion come out of you, it's fantastic. Because when you created the WXC, I think it's really cool that women have their own league to build like their own camaraderie, and I know you said some people think, oh, for them to eventually play on Optic Texas or something, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But I don't. I think there's something to be said that's you have 4v4, like 8 of the best women playing against each other in like their own champs, their own finals,
Yeah.
in their own separate league alongside with the CDL. I think that says a lot.
Yeah. I again, the where it's at right now, like I couldn't have imagined like how far it had already come. And even like just small steps, and like, yeah, being on the broadcast is great, and people coming to watch is great, but like even just in the past like month, like the WXC girls are being recognized as like a step above right now. Like I'm sure you guys just saw like the Warzone versus CO Pros or whatever. One of our back-to-back champs, Selly, went and freaking won that thing. Like, and they're being recognized as like a step above like the average player, which is what we've just been asking for the longest time. And the fact that that's kind of already happening, and these girls are also understanding the content game. They're understanding, to make brands for themselves and to stream and get themselves out there, because they don't have to be the best player. We just have to get enough of an audience to create a bigger audience and just keep it going. So, where it's at right now, I couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah, well, and also too, I mean, your vision for what you've wanted, like, and I'm sure where you see the WXC going in the next 5 years. I mean, that's because of you, because you started this and you've created that pathway. Yeah, we're gassing you up
Yeah.
right now. Like, you go and you created that. You know what I mean? Like, you have that. You had a vision for what you've wanted. Like, and you said, like, you didn't want to start it necessarily to try to have some woman be starting on Optic Texas, but just for the fact of them to be recognized and
Yeah.
for people to understand, like, yeah, there is not just a handful of these people that are doing this. There's a large community, and there could pretty much, I would imagine, there could probably be a whole other CDL of just women players, that can compete at that level, and they can actually be shown, and recognized for their talents.
Yeah.
And along that, I was going to ask, where do you, like, what are some goals or hopes that you want to see, like, with the WXC within the next 5 years or so? Like, what's the vision?
5 years, I'm hoping it's gone and we just have girls on the stage. But if it was to stay, if it was to stay around, honestly, this isn't, I mean, as long as 5 years, but hopefully within the next year, or even next, like by the next game, this probably will happen. But I have all the girls on LAN. My biggest thing when I made the WXC was like, I never want to take money out of the girls' pockets, because that's just not how it works. It's like they're already, we're already just normal girls working normal jobs, just like the amateurs working, normal jobs, and having to pay out of pocket to play something that maybe they just regard as a hobby right now isn't really ideal. So my biggest thing was like, it's free to entry for all the girls. It's just about getting the highest level of competition. And when we take them to LAN, our goal right now is to pay for the top four teams to go play their finals at LAN and pay for everything, pay for the production, pay for the broadcast, their lodging, their flights, everything, as if obviously it was like a CDL situation, have them have media days, again, just create this hype around like, hey guys, it's like a mini event. We're having, our finals with our best teams, and it's on LAN, which is a big thing because, in the girls scene, if a girl can't be good, or she is good, she probably has to be cheating. So it's also kind of trying to break that stigma of like, well, now we're on local area network, so what do you have to say
Right.
about that one?
Right.
But LAN
Middle fingers all around,
definitely, yeah. Hopefully,
Yeah.
within the next year and beyond that, just continuing to grow it, continuing to tweak where we have to tweak. We're expanding to 12 teams next game. So same things, just keep the expansion going. Obviously, I want to get way more CDL organizations involved as much as possible, which are a lot of talks happening. With the past 2 seasons, it was difficult just because it was so quick, and as things work with esports, I mean, some of these talks are things that can take just months on end, because even though for us, like for the WXC, it's easy. We're just like, hey, do this and this, we can do this. But, for bigger organizations with more people to go through, it's like, oh, well, I need to ask my head department, and then they got to ask their boss, and then we got to see if there's a budget, and then we got to, like they have a whole process that they have to go to. So when we did first, because we did reach out to CL organizations, and a lot of them showed interest, it was just the time frame wasn't enough, because we're emailing them and we're like, season 2 starts next week, and it's like, whoa, oh no, hold slower horses there. So I want to get way more CL teams involved. Hopefully like 6 to 8 CL teams involved. Even if it's just signing girls as content creators, I'll be happy. Just I want them to see that we're serious.
That's great. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like, one question I had. I know the last guest we had, Sammy, she was part of OXG. She just left. But what advice do you have for like a woman that just want to get into the gaming space in general? Because I have a younger sister. She plays video games like every now and then. She's nothing like us, but there's a lot of stigma of women trying to get into the gaming scene, and a lot of toxicity. And I can imagine that like pushes a lot of them away. I mean, hell, it pushes me away from like Rainbow Six. That community is very toxic, and like I don't play it mainly because of that. So what advice do you have for them?
Would you like me to answer this in 2 parts, in terms of like getting a job and then mentally handling it, or like just all together?
However you want to do it.
You want.
Okay. Just getting a job in general, obviously, as with any job, like the biggest thing is to figure out what you want to do first. And obviously that's really broad, but the reason in esports why it's so important is because you are basically choosing 2 different avenues of how you're going to present yourself. So like say you want to become a caster, a host, a streamer, a content creator, somebody more in the public eye. There's a couple of things and assets that you need. Like you need to make sure you make a Twitter. You need to make sure you kind of talk to yourself and understand what you want your presence to be. What do you want people to know you for? What is it that people should like you or, know about you? Because online first impression is everything. So your whole, personality or whatever you put out there is going to be what, people think of when they see you. So it's about kind of making sure you keep yourself in check. If you have anger issues, work on that. Or like, if you can't help your Twitter fingers, work on that. Make sure you have all social media, the Instagram, the Twitters. It's exhausting. It sucks. I hate it. Understand that it's not going to be enjoyable anymore. Like, social media is not going to be fun anymore like it is before you get like hardcore into it in esports, because it is so important and it's such a big role in esports because it's how most of us got our jobs. Again, I got my job from a DM on Twitter. Like, you're gonna hate it. It's gonna suck. And so be ready to say goodbye to that, as well as, getting used to the exhaustion of like, oh, being an analyst and all this stuff so easy, or, being a creator is so easy, but it's not. Because at the end of the day, you're thinking about work 24/7 all the time, and it never feels like enough because in those types of areas, you're your own boss usually, so you have to hold yourself accountable. And not only that, like, you could have slow days just like you'd have slow days at a restaurant. I mean, if you're a content creator, you have a light beaming in your eyeballs for like 9 hours, and it's not fun. It's exhausting and it sucks. And you're in front of blue screens all the time. You're sitting a lot. There's a lot of things you have to do to take care of yourself. So understand, that it's not as sunshine and rainbows as it might seem to be, even though it is better than most jobs. If that's the avenue you want to go, those are some things that you have to be aware of. You can't answer trolls. They suck. My biggest piece of advice with like bad people on social media, because that's the biggest weight, is social media. My biggest advice is to block them. People, again, first impressions, they have maybe 1 to 3 messages before I'm like, that's what you chose to be your first impression. See ya. It's that one view, that one impression, that one engagement, that one like, whatever. It's not going to affect literally anything. That person should no longer exist to you, because if they didn't comment on your social media, you'd never see them in real life. They literally are an NPC. They're just not real people. So just get rid of them. Goodbye. See ya. See you later. And you obviously know what kind of person you are. And if you wouldn't go and hate comment on somebody's post or say something like they would say, then you automatically already know you're a better person than them, and that whatever they had to say probably came from a bad place. So screw those people. Now, on the other side of things, if you want to get into like production, you don't want to be in the spotlight whatsoever. You don't want to put yourself out there. The one thing I found the most on like the production side of things, at least, we're talking, producers and things, people that work on the back end, lights, cameras, all that. I'm sure there's some, again, I've never done it. I'm just speaking from an on-air talent perspective of like what I've seen behind the scenes of like a lot of the hiring happens from like sports broadcasting. We have a lot of like old ESPN people, a lot of news people. So honestly, it's just about building whatever skill you want. If you think you'd be a really good producer, find production companies that work in esports near you. Literally just find them. Twitter obviously is a really easy avenue. Find the names of production companies that work in esports, find their producers, reach out to them and be like, hey, I really want to get into producing in esports. I've gone to school for this, or, maybe I have this experience, or maybe you have no experience. If you have no experience, that's fine. Just try to find a little bit more amateur productions. Like if you wanted to be a producer, you find something like the WXC and you come to us and we're like, we have somebody that can teach you how to do this. And then you get taught how to do this. And then you go to Esports Engine and you're like, hey, Esports Engine, I did this production before. Could you help me, be better or whatever, or move up or whatever? And that's kind of like how that will go, because since it is technically newer, most people are being stolen from other industries. So to have somebody that's built for the specific industry is actually kind of a plus that you have on your side, that you've, learned your craft specifically for the esports industry. Same thing kind of goes for like social media managers and stuff. It's just about finding, the organizations themselves and the right people to talk to, as with any job. Find people that have social media manager in their bio. And Twitter is like the hub. It is the esports hub. It's not Twitter anymore. It's called X. You catch me dead calling
Everyone's
it
gonna
that.
call it Twitter. Yeah.
Catch me dead calling it X. But like Twitter is the heart of esports right now, which is so funny to me. But like that is where everything happens. It's where you get jobs. It's where you meet people. It's where you find people. It's how you let people know stuff. Just have a Twitter. You know what? Maybe that's it. That's my only advice. Have a Twitter. Cut. End of podcast.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning
in.
I mean, it's very well said.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all, but it's, I think with a lot of people that we've interviewed within this space, it's always impressive to me to see how well-rounded and how aware everybody is of not just like what's going on within their bubble, like within their job, but just within the broader esports, because you're not just talking about like how to get your job, it's like how to have a job in anything related to esports. And I think a lot of that, like all the advice you just gave, that would extend even way beyond esports,
Thanks.
Well said. Well said.
I don't receive compliments. Well, you guys can't tell. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing. We can end it off here because I know we've been going for a bit.
Yeah, we're gonna roll.
I wrote it down. What do you think? What would 16-year-old Allie think about 23-year-old Allie today?
I think 16-year-old me would think I wasn't a real person. Like, I think if I was at stop, that question kind of makes me cry. What is wrong with? She would be elated. She would be very, very elated considering the situation I was in when I was 16. What I am at now didn't seem possible at all. Like, not even just working in esports seemed possible. Like, honestly, like being alive in general seemed impossible. Living on my own seemed impossible. At 16, I couldn't even sleep without like all the lights on in my room. So like the fact that I can live on my own and I have cats and I can take care of myself and and I have a career and my relationship with my parents is way better and the relationship with my brother is way better. I think she would be elated. We'd probably both be crying.
Hugging it out for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, again, I'll like pretty much just closing it out, Allie. Honestly, thank you so much. It's been real pleasure. Honestly, I know it sounds corny. It's been an honor listening to you.
This has been really great.
Talk. Yeah. I mean, we had an absolute blast. And I'm glad that we touched on everything, and hopefully everybody listening too just gets a better scope of who you are, and that there's more than just the person that's on the analyst desk.
More than just my first impression.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Be nice to Allie. Stop tweeting her shit.
It's okay. I'm not looking anyway.
Yeah. Go gift her subs,
Yeah, if you're gonna be mean to me, at least put it in a gifted sub message.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Allie, last thing, like real last thing. Do you have any questions for us?
You don't need to.
Okay, I was gonna say I mean I suck at this. I wish I came more prepared. I know I do have a question. Okay, first question. Do you guys like pizza?
Yeah.
Why did you do that in sync? Okay.
Do
you like pineapple on pizza?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like pineapple on pizza.
Okay.
Oh,
you want me to go? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. Pineapple and ham. Sure, I like it. Would it be my first go-to though? No.
Okay, can I break something to you? That question was
was
completely useless. I hate pizza and I don't eat it. That was a completely useless question. My feelings towards you changed absolutely none whatsoever.
I have to tell you too. Okay, this is really strange. So there was a guitar student I had today, and this guy, he was like just talking about how much he could eat, and I was like, could you eat a whole pizza by yourself? He's like, absolutely not, I hate pizza, it's disgusting. That was the first person I've ever heard say that they hate pizza, and now you are the second person that I've ever heard.
First is the worst, second is the best. Let's
go. There you go. So on that note, again, we'll keep hyping you up. Thank you so much again, Allyckt, for coming on. And again, thank you everybody who's been tuning into this episode. We'll be sure to go and have all her socials listed below in the bio, as well as her Twitch. So be sure to go gift her 100 subs. Just drop the bank account, do what you got to do. But no, give her a follow, of course, and on all platforms, anything that you can do to show support. And then, of course, whenever the CDL starts up again, which I believe it's February, right? Is that when it is?
I'm not leaking.
January?
No leaking.
Oh yeah, they can't.
Oh yeah, no leaking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't hold your breath. Yeah, sometime in 2024 when the league starts up again, you'll see her on the cast. So be sure to go and show your support there as well. As well for us, of course, you guys know the deal. Anchor.fm/COD Casuals, where all the stream platforms are. As well as go to the our Instagram and our TikTok as well, where we do some shorts. So if you don't want to go tune in for the whole 1 hour, 41 and 33 second video, you can go check out the short clips there. And yeah, I think that does it, man. Right?
Yeah. 5-star rating.
Yeah. 5-star rating. No 4 stars, please. So again, thank you so much for listening, everybody, for episode 133 of the COD Casuals podcast. We're your host, Mike.
I'm Justin.
And we'll see you in the next one, everybody. Take it easy.
See ya.